Smart people set boundaries without guilt because they understand something. Most people miss peace is earned through choices, not through people pleasing. The truth is, every time you say yes when you really mean no, you're abandoning yourself just to keep someone else comfortable. And that trade-off? It's not worth it. Boundaries are not walls. They're not cruel. They're not selfish. They are clarity. They're decisions that say, this is how I expect to be treated, without screaming or begging or fighting for respect. And the smartest people know that when you're clear on what you allow, people either rise to meet that standard or they exit your life. Either way, it's a win. There's a pattern: toxic people rely on guilt. They push, manipulate, twist, and convince you that setting boundaries makes you cold or too much or selfish. But you want to know the truth? The only people who get upset when you set boundaries are the ones who benefited from your lack of them. That's the shift right there. Once you realize you've been over-explaining, overextending, over-apologizing, and undervaluing yourself, everything changes. Smart people reach this turning point and never go back. They stop negotiating their needs just to keep toxic people happy. It starts in the little moments. You notice you always leave a conversation with that one person feeling drained, anxious, second-guessing yourself. Or maybe it's someone who constantly crosses the line, makes backhanded comments, or plays victim every time you try to stand up for yourself. Smart people pay attention to these signs. They don't dismiss them or gaslight themselves into thinking they're being too sensitive. They trust their gut. And when the boundary needs to be set, they do it, clearly, calmly, without guilt. And here's what's even more powerful. They don't wait for permission. They don't ask toxic people, is it okay if I pull back? They just do it. Because boundaries are not about controlling other people. They're about controlling what you allow in your life. You're allowed to protect your time, your mind, your energy. You're allowed to decide who gets access to you and how. That's not harsh, that's healthy. Of course, it's not easy at first. If you've spent most of your life putting others first or trying to be the nice one, setting boundaries feels like rejection. It feels uncomfortable. And toxic people, they'll push back harder. They'll say, you've changed, and you have. That's the point. Smart people are not afraid to change when the cost of staying the same is too high. You have to understand, guilt is a normal part of growth, but you can't let it control your decisions. That uncomfortable feeling when you say no, that's just a sign you're doing something new, something strong. Something that protects your peace in the long run. And with practice, that guilt fades. It gets replaced by confidence, by clarity, by calm. And when smart people start setting boundaries consistently, their life starts changing in subtle but powerful ways. Their conversations become lighter. Their energy feels stronger. Their days are no longer hijacked by someone else's chaos. They stop being available for every crisis. They stop playing therapist to people who have no interest in getting better. They stop over-explaining and start deciding. And the world doesn't fall apart. In fact, it gets better. Because the truth is, when you set a boundary, you don't just protect yourself, you teach others how to treat you. You send a message that says, I'm not here to be used. I'm here to grow. And the people who respect that, they stay. The ones who don't, they leave. And both outcomes are exactly what's supposed to happen. Smart people know this. That's why they don't set boundaries to hurt others. They set boundaries to heal themselves. And once they get a taste of that peace, they stop apologizing for choosing it. They stop feeling guilty for protecting it. And they stop giving unearned access to people who bring nothing but chaos to their life. So if it feels hard, that's okay. If people get upset, let them. You're not doing this to punish anyone. You're doing it because your peace is a priority. And anyone who truly cares about you will respect that, even if it takes time. Smart people don't try to fix toxic people because they understand a critical truth. Change is an inside job. You can't force it, you can't beg for it, and you definitely can't drag someone to it. No amount of love, patience, advice, or effort can fix a person who doesn't want to be fixed. And that's not your failure, that's their choice. Smart people learn this the hard way, usually after investing far too much time in people who were never truly invested in changing. That's when it clicks. You're not responsible for someone else's growth. You're responsible for your own. Toxic people often disguise themselves as broken people who just need help. They'll play the victim, use their past as a shield, and convince you that your love or guidance is the missing piece they need. But smart people stop falling for that pattern. They see through the emotional manipulation. They recognize that someone who truly wants to heal will take action, not just talk in circles and blame everyone else. They understand that emotional responsibility is not contagious. You can't pass it on to someone who refuses to pick it up for themselves. Trying to fix toxic people is like trying to fill a bucket with no bottom. No matter how much you pour in, your time, your energy, your empathy, it never fills up. And while you're trying to be their solution, you're slowly becoming their supply. That's what toxic people do. They latch on to anyone who's willing to stay, to listen, to solve their messes, to absorb their drama. But smart people realize that's not a relationship, that's a trap. They stop justifying bad behavior because of someone's sad story. They stop excusing toxicity because of someone's trauma. Smart people can have empathy without enabling. They can care without carrying. They can say, I understand what you've been through, but I won't let it destroy me too. And when they finally reach that level of clarity, they stop trying to fix people who've made a lifestyle out of being broken. It's not because they don't care, it's because they care enough to step away. Smart people know that rescuing someone from the consequences of their own behavior only guarantees one thing: they'll never learn. So instead of getting caught in that cycle, they let go. Not out of anger, but out of wisdom. They stop over-functioning in relationships where the other person isn't even trying. They stop making excuses. They stop believing the empty promises of "I'll change" that never come with action. And here's what happens when they do. They get their energy back. They get their focus back. They stop living in emotional chaos and start experiencing peace. Because when you're constantly trying to fix someone, you're not living your life, you're managing theirs. That's exhausting. That's unproductive. And that's not love, it's codependence. Smart people walk away from that. They understand that you can support someone without sacrificing yourself. You can be loving without becoming a doormat. You can root for someone's healing from afar without allowing their dysfunction into your daily life. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for a toxic person is not to fix them, but to leave them with their own reflection, to let them sit in the silence of your absence and face their own choices. That's where real growth can begin. And if it doesn't, that's not your burden to carry. Smart people choose their peace over their pride. They don't stay just to prove they're loyal. They don't keep pouring into someone who keeps poking holes in everything they give. They don't stay stuck trying to convince someone of their worth. Instead, they walk away with dignity, not because they gave up, but because they finally realized it's not their job. They stop measuring their value by how much pain they can endure. They stop confusing loyalty with self-sacrifice. They stop trying to fix people who benefit from staying broken. Because at the end of the day, healing is a decision, not a project. And smart people don't waste their lives waiting on someone else to finally decide. So if someone is showing you day after day that they're committed to their dysfunction more than your peace, take that as your answer. Step back, let them go. Focus on yourself, because your energy is sacred, your time is limited, and your mental health is not a charity. You deserve relationships that feel like growth, not battles. And the moment you stop trying to fix toxic people, you finally start fixing your own life. Let me say that again. Just because someone has a place in your past doesn't mean they deserve a seat in your present. Smart people know that. They're not cruel. They're not cold. They're clear. Clear about boundaries. Clear about energy. Clear about what they will and will not tolerate. Toxic people thrive on confusion, on guilt, on the illusion that you're responsible for their emotions. And if you don't step back and get honest, you'll spend years trying to heal someone who has no intention of healing themselves. Here's what smart people understand. Not everyone is your assignment. Let that sink in. Your job is not to fix people who lie, manipulate, gossip, or drain the life out of every room they walk into. Your job is to protect your peace so you can focus on what actually matters, your goals, your purpose, your happiness. And no, it doesn't make you selfish. It makes you sane. You can be kind and still cut people off. You can be compassionate and still walk away. You can forgive people and never let them near you again. You don't have to explain it. You don't have to justify it. You just have to decide that your well-being is not negotiable. Smart people don't waste time fighting battles that only exist because of someone else's lack of self-awareness. They recognize the signs, they feel the energy shift, and then they act. They don't argue with toxic people, they disengage. They don't chase closure, they create it. They don't expect accountability from someone who lives in denial. They move on. And the best part? Once you stop entertaining toxic behavior, the real peace begins. You stop reacting. You start choosing. You stop explaining. You start living. That sets the difference. Smart people know the cost of chaos, and they refuse to pay it. So the next time someone shows you who they are, believe it the first time and respond with the clarity, strength, and boundaries of someone who finally decided, I'm done losing myself trying to save someone else. You want to look strong. You want to feel alive. You want to stay unshakable, not just today, but forever. Here steps the truth no one tells you. It's not about makeup, not about followers, not about filters. It's about the energy you choose every single day. You don't wake up powerful. You become powerful with action. Every time you show up when you didn't feel like it, every time you speak kindly to yourself when your brain throws garbage at you, every time you refuse to give up when no one's clapping for you, that steps when you grow roots, deep ones. Because looking strong starts with what you tell yourself when the mirror stares back. Feeling strong starts with what you do when nobody's watching. And staying strong, that sets a habit, not a feeling, a decision. Made daily. Your body, your face, your presence, they reflect your thoughts. Carry shame, it shows. Carry confidence, it radiates. So what sets your decision today? You want to glow? Then get up, move, hydrate. Protect your energy like it's sacred, because it is. Show up for yourself like you matter, because you do. You want to look and feel better? Stop waiting. Start acting. Power isn't found, it's built. So get clear. Get disciplined. And never forget, how you carry yourself is louder than any words you'll ever say. You don't need to feel powerful to act powerful. You need to act first. That's the truth. Most people don't want to hear. They wait. They sit around hoping to feel inspired, waiting for motivation to magically appear, as if confidence or clarity will just knock on their door one morning. But it doesn't. That's not how power works. You don't wait to feel it. You create it. The biggest lie we've been sold is that our actions must match our feelings. that if we don't feel ready, we're not supposed to move, that if we don't feel good, we're allowed to stay stuck. But emotions are just signals. They aren't instructions. They can be misleading, outdated, or flat out wrong. And if you let them drive your decisions, you'll stay trapped in a loop, overthinking, underacting, and regretting every opportunity you let slip by. When you decide to act first, even when you're tired, anxious, insecure, or afraid, something incredible happens. Your brain catches up. Momentum kicks in. That first move, no matter how small, sparks energy. It flips a switch from passive to powerful. Because once you take action, you prove to yourself that you're capable, even in discomfort. That's where confidence is born. Not from comfort, but from proof. Think about any time you've done something hard. You didn't feel confident before it. You didn't feel powerful in the moments leading up to it. But once you did it, once you made the call, hit publish, walked into the room, stood on the stage, something shifted inside you. You realized you could do more than you gave yourself credit for. And that realization only came after the action. Action breaks fear. Every single time, because fear lives in the future. It feeds off of what ifs, but action lives in the now. When you do something, even something small, you take control back from fear. You stop thinking and start leading. You stop shrinking and start expanding. Most people think they need courage to take action, but the truth is, courage is the result of action. You don't start with it, you build it. One rep at a time, just like a muscle. The first time you push through resistance, you're shaky, but you do it anyway. Then you do it again and again, until one day what used to scare you becomes normal. You normalize strength, you normalize bravery, and that's when you start to feel powerful, not because it magically appeared, but because you built it through effort. The most successful people in the world don't wait to feel ready, they just start. They understand that emotion follows motion, that you don't have to want to do it, you just have to do it. The wanting comes later, the momentum builds. And eventually, what once felt impossible becomes part of your identity. This isn't just motivational fluff, it's neuroscience. Your brain is wired to protect you, to keep you in comfort. That's why hesitation feels natural. That's why procrastination is easy. But your brain also rewires based on behavior. Every time you override comfort and choose courage, you reprogram your brain to support your power. You create new patterns. You reinforce new beliefs. Not by thinking differently, but by acting differently. So the next time you don't feel ready, good, that means it matters. That means you're on the edge of growth. Use that feeling as a trigger, not a stop sign. The moment you feel doubt, move. The moment your mind says, wait, take the first step. Train your body to act before your brain talks you out of it. You don't have to feel powerful to act powerfully. You just have to move, show up, speak up, try, repeat. That's it. That's the secret. You build power by using power even when you don't think it's there, because it is. It's in you, always has been. You just have to go first. How you treat yourself in private shows in public. People think they can hide their insecurities, their self-doubt, their lack of confidence behind a smile or a filtered image, but the truth is, it leaks out. It's in the way you walk into a room, how you sit when no one's watching, how you speak when you're unsure, and how often you hesitate before raising your hand or voicing your opinion. The way you speak to yourself, the conversations you have in your own head, those become your posture, your tone, your energy. The world can feel it before you even say a word. You can't fake energy, not for long. You can't pretend to be confident if every morning you look in the mirror and attack yourself. You can't shine outwardly if you're dimming your own light internally. If your inner dialogue is filled with judgment, criticism, and fear, then no matter how much you dress it up on the outside, your body language will betray you. That quiet self-hate seeps into your eyes, into your voice, into the way you avoid being seen. Confidence starts with private rituals. It's in the choice to stand up tall even when no one's around. It's in the way you gently redirect negative self-talk and replace it with something true and empowering. It's in the decisions you make when no one's keeping score, how you keep a promise to yourself, even when no one else would know if you didn't. The smallest acts done in private are the foundation of real, lasting presence in public. If you want to show up with power, you must treat yourself with respect when the spotlight's off. Because those moments, brushing your teeth while repeating a mantra, walking with purpose even when you're just moving around the house, doing the extra rep when the workout is almost over, those aren't small, they're training moments. You're shaping your identity in them. You're building inner strength that the world can't help but notice later. Think about people you admire. It's not just what they say, it's how they carry themselves. The calm in their voice, the conviction in their eyes, the grounded energy in how they stand. That's not built in front of crowds. That's built in silence, in solitude, in self-respect. When no one's looking, they're still living in alignment. That's what gives their public presence so much weight. Most people try to fix their outer image. Clothes, voice tone, performance. But those are surface-level upgrades. They don't last if the inner wiring is still broken. If you speak with confidence, but think with doubt, the body will expose the truth. The most powerful way to upgrade your presence is to upgrade how you treat yourself internally. That means you don't call yourself stupid when you make a mistake. You don't say, "I can't," without challenging it. You don't let your mind run wild with stories about not being enough. You coach yourself like someone you care about. You shift the way you speak to yourself. Because energy doesn't lie. And whether you're on a stage, in a meeting, or just standing in line somewhere, people can feel who's aligned and who's pretending. There's no substitute for doing the private work. You want to glow differently? Talk to yourself differently. You want to walk into a room with quiet strength? Build it when you're alone. That's where it starts. Not in the crowd, not on the timeline, but in the mirror, in the mind, in the moments where no one's clapping and you still choose to respect yourself. So if you want to change how people see you, change how you see yourself. When you build trust with yourself, when you show up with integrity, even in private, that strength carries into every space you enter. No one needs to hear your affirmations. They'll feel them in the way you move, the way you show up, the way you lead. Confidence isn't loud, it's certain. And that certainty, it's grown in the dark, in the quiet. And then one day it walks into the room before you do. Confidence is not something you're born with. It's not a talent, not a gift, and definitely not some magical feeling that just shows up one day. Confidence is something you build, like a muscle. And the way you build it is by doing the work, consistently, especially when it's the last thing you feel like doing. It doesn't come from compliments. It doesn't come from followers, or likes, or outside validation. It comes from one thing: showing up for yourself when it's hard. Most people think confidence is about how you speak, how you look, how you stand, and while those things matter, they're just the result of something deeper. Real confidence is built in the trenches. It's born in the moments when you want to quit, when your mind is screaming "not today," and you go anyway. It's in the repetitions. It's in the discipline. Every time you show up when it's easier not to, you earn a little more trust with yourself. That trust is what confidence is made of. Think about it. When do you feel proud of yourself? When you do something easy, or when you do something hard that you didn't think you could do? Confidence is a memory. It's stored proof. It says, "I've been here before. I've done hard things before. I can handle this." But the only way to gather those memories is through consistency, through daily action, through repetition. It doesn't have to be big. In fact, it shouldn't be. You build confidence in the micro moments, waking up when your alarm goes off instead of hitting snooze, speaking up in a meeting even when your voice shakes, going to the gym when no one's watching, saying no when you usually say yes just to please people. These small, everyday choices matter more than any motivational talk or pep rally ever will, because they tell your brain, I do what I say I'll do. That's the root of self-respect, and self-respect is the soil where confidence grows. You'll never feel confident by thinking about confidence. You can't just read books or watch videos and expect it to appear. You have to earn it through effort, through repetition, through showing up on the days you want to disappear. And when you do that over and over, something powerful happens. Your identity shifts. You stop seeing yourself as someone who breaks promises to themselves. You start becoming the kind of person who follows through, who keeps going, who doesn't rely on emotion to take action. Most people want to feel confident before they act, but that's the trap. Confidence is not the starting line. It's the reward at the finish. You build it by acting without it, by stepping into fear, by making the move while feeling insecure. That's what changes everything. Because once you've done that enough times, your brain stops questioning you. It stops doubting you. It starts believing you. And belief? That's what makes you unshakable. So many people waste years of their lives waiting for the fear to go away, waiting to feel sure, waiting to feel brave. But here's the truth, that moment never comes. You will always have doubts. You will always feel resistance. That's not weakness, that's the human brain doing its job. What separates confident people from everyone else is that they move anyway. They don't wait for the fear to disappear. They learn how to act in spite of it. It's not sexy, it's not fast, and it's definitely not always fun. But consistency, it works. It transforms you. One disciplined decision at a time, and eventually, without even realizing it, you become someone others look at and think, how are they so confident? And you'll know the answer. You built it when it was hard, when no one clapped, when you wanted to quit. You built it through effort, through grit, through showing up again and again. And that's the kind of confidence that doesn't crack because it wasn't handed to you. It was earned. Power is a daily practice, not a mood. That's the truth most people overlook. We're taught to chase motivation, to wait for inspiration, to listen to our vibes before doing anything. But the people who look strong, feel strong, and stay strong, they don't wait to feel like it. They train themselves to act whether they're in the mood or not. Real power isn't about how you feel on your best days. It's about what you do on your worst ones. You don't become powerful by accident. You don't just stumble into strength. You build it. Repetition by repetition, day by day. Even when it's boring, even when it's uncomfortable, especially when it's uncomfortable. Power isn't a feeling, it's a pattern. The pattern of doing the thing anyway, getting up when you want to stay down, showing up when your mind gives you 1,000 excuses, speaking the truth when it would be easier to stay silent. Those aren't moments of hype, they're habits, and those habits become identity. The mistake people make is thinking that powerful people are just naturally wired that way. They're not. They're trained, conditioned, forged by resistance. They don't rely on moods to move them forward. They rely on discipline. They rely on systems. They rely on the quiet agreement they've made with themselves, that no matter how they feel, they'll keep showing up, that no emotion, no distraction, no excuse will be stronger than their purpose. There will be days you feel off. You'll wake up tired, anxious, unmotivated. Those days are not the problem. They're part of the process. The real problem is when you let those days make your decisions, when you hand over control to your mood instead of sticking to your mission. That's when you fall off. That's when you spiral. Not because you're weak, but because you forgot that the most important reps are the ones you take when you don't feel like it. Training power like a practice means accepting that it won't always feel good. It won't always be exciting. It's not supposed to be. That's the price. You sacrifice momentary comfort for long-term strength. You sacrifice ease for growth. You choose the hard thing, not once, not twice, but every day, even in the small things. Because how you do the small things is how you do everything. Start with the basics. Wake up on time, keep your word, move your body, protect your peace. Fuel your mind with truth, not trash. These aren't flashy actions. They're foundational ones. And when done consistently, they compound. They build internal momentum, the kind of momentum that doesn't depend on external hype or temporary emotion. When power becomes your practice, you stop chasing quick fixes. You stop relying on people to pull you forward. You don't need the perfect playlist or the right lighting or someone to hype you up. You become your own engine, and that makes you unstoppable. Because no matter how chaotic the world gets, you stay grounded, you stay focused, you stay powerful. Not because every day is perfect, but because you're consistent. It's not about forcing yourself to fake strength. It's about becoming the kind of person who can do the hard thing on the hard day. It's about creating systems in your life that support who you want to become. Power doesn't live in the future. It lives in your current routine, your current mindset, your current choices. And you don't need a new year or a perfect Monday to start. You need a decision, a clear, committed decision that says, I'm not waiting for the mood. I'm building the muscle. When you treat power like a practice, you stop asking, do I feel like it, and start asking, what's required of me today? You get honest, you get focused, and that daily effort, that repetition, that's what rewires your identity. That's what makes you strong for life. Because the truth is, you won't feel powerful every day. But if you act powerfully every day, even in the smallest ways, you won't need to chase the feeling. You'll become the force. And that version of you, that's the one that lasts. Smart people respond. They don't react. They understand that emotional control is not about being cold. It's about being wise. When you're dealing with toxic people, your biggest mistake is giving them instant access to your emotional buttons. That's exactly what they want. They want you triggered, defensive, hurt, angry, because the moment you react, they have control. They'll twist your words, exaggerate your tone, flip the story, and suddenly you're the problem. You're the one who overreacted. That's the trap. And smart people, they stop falling for it. They stop giving toxic people the satisfaction of that knee-jerk response. They choose silence over shouting, presence over panic, and strategy over drama. It starts with awareness. Smart people know their patterns. They notice the situations that used to set them off, and they start rewiring their response. Instead of letting someone's passive-aggressive comment ruin their day, they recognize it for what it is, a bait. And instead of biting, they step back. They breathe. They remind themselves, this is not about me, this is about them. That 1 second of pause, that's where the power is. That's where you take your control back, because responding means choosing your next move. Reacting means giving it away. Toxic people love when you explode, when you argue, when you defend yourself. They feed off chaos. But the moment you stop reacting, the game changes. You become unpredictable. You become calm in situations where they expect rage. You become collected in moments designed to push you over the edge. And that disarms them, because toxic behavior loses its power when it doesn't get the reaction it's fishing for. Smart people know this. That's why their silence is sometimes louder than any argument. It speaks volumes. I see what you're doing, and I'm not playing. It's not about pretending things don't affect you. It's about protecting your peace by choosing your battles. Smart people know the difference between a disagreement and a pattern of manipulation. They don't waste words trying to explain basic respect to someone who's never had any. They don't spend hours trying to defend themselves to someone who's already decided to misunderstand them. They stop giving out explanations like their currency. They don't need everyone to understand their boundaries. They just need to honor them. And let's be clear, responding doesn't mean you always stay quiet. Sometimes it means you speak up, but you do it on your terms. You don't yell, you don't lash out, you deliver truth with clarity, not chaos. You express your limits with confidence, not fear. Smart people speak in a way that commands respect without needing to raise their voice. That's the kind of communication that changes everything. It's not about winning an argument, it's about staying in control of yourself. One of the most important things smart people do is delay their response. When things get heated, they don't respond immediately. They take a break, take a breath, take a walk if they need to. Because reacting in the heat of the moment almost always leads to regret. Smart people don't allow toxic people to pull them into impulsive decisions or emotional outbursts. They stay centered, grounded, intentional, and that's what gives them the upper hand, not to hurt the other person, but to protect themselves. This emotional discipline doesn't come naturally. It's built through repetition, through messing up and learning, through catching yourself reacting and choosing differently next time. Smart people give themselves that grace. They don't try to be perfect, but they are committed to staying in control of their energy, because they know that when you let toxic people control your emotions, you're giving them access to your life, and they've decided not anymore. They don't feel the need to have the last word. They don't need to prove their point every time. They know their truth, and they don't hand over their peace just to make noise. Their strength is in their restraint. Their power is in their pause. And their peace comes from knowing that how they respond says more about them than the toxic person ever could. So instead of matching someone's chaos with more chaos, they meet it with calm. They detach. They rise above. They protect their dignity. And when they walk away, it's not out of weakness. It's because they're finally done giving toxic people the power to pull them out of character. That's the level of emotional mastery smart people live by. Not for applause, not for approval, but for freedom.